Hey folks, Country Prepper here. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about EMP attacks and how it's going to affect us, what it is, and this is actually a requested video, so I did some research on it and just kind of want to fill you guys in on it, those of you that don't know, and kind of go over how you can prepare yourself and things of that nature. So this is something that I really need to work on, I'll be quite honest with you. I am not, this is one of those more advanced things to prep for. It goes well beyond, blizzards and tornadoes, hurricanes, things like that. So, but it is a real threat. It is something that I wouldn't say government agencies have looked into, FBI, things like that, but it is a potential threat. Could be a terrorist attack, could be something from the sun. The sun causes solar flares, which have knocked out power grids in different parts of the world. Has not that long ago, it happened to Canada, I believe. So they had a blackout. It's been a few years, but it can happen. So the solar flares from the sun, a massive short circuit in the power grid could cause an EMT type of situation. And there are devices that are actually made to cause an EMP power outage. So, cause an electromagnetic pulse is what EMP actually stands for. So got a little ahead of myself there. But anyhow, so what does an EMP actually do? Well, it fries circuits. Your transformers, the grid is going to be down if this happens. It could be nationwide. It could just affect parts of the country. It kind of all depends on how the EMP attack happens. If it was something like a nuclear blast can cause an electromagnetic pulse, and that is probably one of the more likely threats. Things going on with North Korea, Iran, Russia, we're not very well liked in this world anymore, and we need to learn to mind our own business, but that's neither here nor there in a whole different video. But it's going to affect your cars, it's going to affect communications, your cell phones aren't going to work anymore. It'll even affect things as simple as your LED flashlights. That's right, that is a little circuit board in there. So any type of a circuit board, any type of computer, microchips, what it does basically is it overloads the board. Most circuit boards are like 5 volt, I believe. Like your average things, like your computers, your cell phones, they all work on a 5 volt basis. So, it overloads it, and it blows your circuits out pretty much. Just it fries the circuit board, in other words. So and cars, new cars, they all run off of computers, and so I'll talk a little bit more about what kind of vehicles are going to be more immune to an EMP attack, but that's like I said, a little later. So what exactly is this going to do to us? Obviously grid's going to be down, no electricity. What happens if there's no electricity? Well, water is pumped electrically, goes up the tower and then comes down in a gravity feed for most towns, like the town I live in. So no more water. Next thing, obviously as the grid's down, you got no lights, you have no refrigeration, no air conditioning, no heat. Today's furnaces have electronic igniters on them, so your furnace isn't going to work. The only way it would work is if you could run it off of it's still, most houses still have natural gas that runs to them, but the igniter runs off of electricity. So the only thing you could do is hook up like a car battery to it with a what's the word I'm looking for, a DC converter, and you could run it that way just to get it to ignite. So it still has to be able to run those processes though, and most furnaces that run that way have a motherboard of some type in them anyway, so that is probably not even an option. So something you might want to do to prepare yourself for that type of situation is to get a kerosene heater or you know, good old wood stove. So, but a wood stove is something hard to install in a house. Not really a DIY project, but it could be. Depends on how good you are at that type of thing. It's going to take a lot of carpentry. There are a lot of codes to follow. I have installed a few fireplaces, so I actually did that for a living for a few months. But yeah, it's definitely something worth looking into. So even if you just had like your garage with a wood stove in it, at least you could get in there and keep your family warm in the wintertime. So moving on, no fuel. So even if you have a vehicle that would be immune to an EMP, you still can't pump fuel because fuel is pumped electrically. So the only way that's going to work is, again, you know, you'd have to somehow get to the tanks and pump it out manually. So I don't know how well that's going to work, because I'm pretty sure if the grid goes down and the situation is that bad, it's going to be a shit hit the fan situation, folks. So that's just something to keep in mind. Small town like mine, I mean, there's not even, I don't think there's even 1,000 people in the town I live in. So I could probably get away with getting some fuel from the local gas station. But your bigger cities, it's going to be chaos. Everybody's going to want that fuel. So just keep that in mind. You might, you know, stock up, at least keep, you know, as much as you possibly can, gas on storage. So just something to think about. Like I said earlier, there will be no communication either. The only way you're going to have any communication is with like shortwave radios, ham radios, things like that. But you have to protect those things. And that is something else that I need to really look into, and I'll probably do another video on it, and it's called a Faraday cage. What that is basically is a sealed container that is conductive. So you could use like your big, you know, galvanized steel trash cans, and but it has to be sealed. You can't just put the lid on it. So they make this aluminum tape that is, you know, it's about the same size roll as duct tape, but it's made for flashings and for duct work on a furnace. Even though, you know, duct tape is made for duct work too, but there is also this aluminized tape that they use for, well, they use for putting in wood stoves. So, you know, they'll wrap the seams of the chimney pipe with this tape, and that's the kind of tape you're going to need to seal it off. Unless you do like a smaller container, you know, you could build a wood box, or maybe you already have something like a wood chest or something like that. Wrap that sucker up in tin foil or aluminum foil, whatever you want to call it. But just make sure it is sealed. You'd have to do several layers to make sure they overlap enough that it is sealed. So that's just another way to protect yourself, a way to prep for things. I might build a Faraday cage and keep some two-way radios or CB radio or things like that. Maybe some throwaway cell phones, because even if the circuits get fried in this, you know, communications probably could be put back up and in place and work in a working order in a reasonable amount of time. It all kind of depends on how big the attack is, how extensive it goes. So, you know, they could restore communications and then, you know, have like, you know, a prepaid cell phone off, you know, on hand. Keep something like that in a Faraday cage. It's just, there's so many things to think about, and I'm kind of brain scattered about this. I've done a lot of research, but there's so many things that to consider that I just don't know where to kind of end, because I don't want to have a 2-hour video going here. So to get to vehicles that were run after an EMP attack, like I said before, cars nowadays have computers on board, and they have microchips throughout. I mean, you can't even buy, most cars nowadays even have stuff to, they'll have sensors for the air in the tires. So what I would recommend is an older vehicle, a very old vehicle, as in like early 70s and older. They ran off of what is called, and a lot of small engines run off of this. Older tractors ran off of this. I had a 51A John Deere that had, it's a magneto. It runs off of a flywheel and has a points and condenser, and that is what creates the spark to the spark plug that ignites the fuel in the cylinder chamber. So it's electronic ignition is probably not going to work after an EMP. So I would just recommend, just to be safe, to make sure, I would go for an older vehicle, especially like, if it's that kind of a situation, it's going to be shit hit the fan, you're going to want four-wheel drive. You're going to want something pretty big, pretty tough. My dad actually just got done selling a truck like this. I wish he would have told me he wanted to sell it, but it was a 71 Ford 3/4 ton factory highboy, for those of you who know what that is. It had, a real tall suspension on it, good sized tires, had posi traction rear end, and these trucks would go further in two-wheel drive than nowadays four-wheel drive trucks will, locked in four-wheel drive. It was a tank. You couldn't stop that truck. So it was tough. It was made in 1971, and it was still holding together great. Engine leaked a little bit of oil, but being that old, yeah, it deserved to leak a little bit. So that's the kind of vehicle that I would want to have. And it ran off of points and, a magneto. So, and also it was a manual transmission. And here's another thing that's really important is an EMP, even though it won't destroy batteries, it will drain them if they're hooked up to something. So it had a clutch, manual transmission in it. And you can push start those, coast start them. All you have to do is get the truck rolling, put it in like third or fourth gear, a higher gear, and pop the clutch, and the truck starts. Simple as that. So it forces the engine to turn over, and with the points and magneto, it will turn over and create that spark to get the engine running. So I don't know how many times I had an early 80s pickup that the battery starter went out on, and also another time the battery was getting old on me and didn't have money for another one. I was a teenager then. But I co-started it. I just parked it on a hill so that I could, push the clutch in, take it out of gear, let it roll for a little bit, get some momentum, put it back in gear, pop the clutch, and it was running. So that is the kind of vehicle I would recommend that you have on hand if you can afford it. And an old vehicle like that, you're not going to find them in great shape, but they're tough. And, they're not going to cost a lot. So, find something that's not in the best shape, fix it up. It's a good project. So that is what I would recommend for a vehicle. What else can I say? Really, another thing I want to mention about, and this goes along with the vehicles, is in the grid down situation that an EMP would cause, is there will be no food, because there will be no trucks running down the road delivering food to the grocery store or the supermarket or Walmart or wherever. No fuel means no trucks running. No trucks running means no food. So that's one of the big things. As preppers, we all stock up on food. But in that case, it's probably going to take quite a while for the trucks to start running again. So that is something to keep in mind. And, whatever food is in the grocery store or supermarket, whatever you want to call it, anything in the refrigeration cases is going to go bad in no time at all. So, the shelves are going to get emptied in no time. But that is just something you want to keep in mind. If you go in after the fact, after most everything else is picked off the shelves, those refrigeration cases are going to start getting warm and start spoiling, and that's a lot of spoiled, nasty smelling food. So that's just something to keep in mind, guys. But you know, if there's any information that I have missed, definitely leave it in the comments section. I'd really like to know, do you think this is a plausible thing? I kind of think it is, with as many different countries out there that really dislike us nowadays, and with all the, I mean, there's cyber attacks left and right every day, I think, from what I've read. So, you know, that's something that we really have to think about and take into consideration with our preps. So, let me know what you think, guys. I'm always glad to hear your opinions. So, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.